for this
I
deliberate?
don't know. Actually, just as you just pointed it out, I think that they have started the recording. I'm not the one who do the recording. Okay.
Oh,
Please,
okay.
my question.
We have some monitors. We have some monitors. They do the recording, and definitely they will
Okay,
share the
thank you. Thank you.
recordings. Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, any other issue? Go ahead and make your point, and then
Please,
let's
I
proceed.
have a issue with regards to the SBA.
You have an issue with it. Okay, go ahead and point it out. Let's all learn from you. Yes.
Please, the question is, in fact, the SBA part of the assessment as the learner goes. As we said, they're supposed to be holistically. But
Mm-hmm.
I have an issue why teachers are giving preferential treatment to students. They don't consider their capability level because students might see them to be bad teachers if they fail to give them proper CA. So in that case, or the student results reflect his true academic performance. And if it does not reflect the student true academic performance, what is the implications or the effect on the Ghana education
But
service?
but take please take it again. You started talking about. I think I didn't get that part clearly. If you can um address the issue again, I'll be happy.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Doc. Please, I
Mm-hmm.
am of the opinion that students
Mm-hmm.
might feel very bad if they are given lesser marks in
Mm-hmm.
their
Mm-hmm.
continued assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Then you give them higher marks, of which they do not demerit that or they don't
Mm-hmm.
deserve that.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, what are the implications in the academic life of the learner and Ghana as a whole?
I think that this is the affective domain, right?
Mhm.
And it has an ethical issues as well. But the point you're making is true. It's something practical that normally happens because every school wouldn't want to give marks that at the end of the day will not inure to the benefit of the student. And what you're saying is true because at the end of the day, um, you're likely to give some marks that may not reflect the capabilities or the abilities of the student. So yes, you're right. And it's a matter of the teachers being candid, okay? And if you give high marks and at the end of the day it doesn't replicate the the scores that the learner will get in the WESI or the external examination or the final examination, definitely the learner will not be able to make the marks that he or she is supposed to get with the kind of intention that but take it or leave it, it has some individual differences. Some will want to provide the actual performance in terms of the marks, some wouldn't want to do it. So we seem not to have that absolute control over it, but I think that it's just an appeal that we can make to teachers, and we are all teachers. So if you are given the opportunity, what will you do? It's up to all of us, the kind of scores that we give to our learners. But I'm not also, you may have a problem with it because of the structure of educational system. You know, elsewhere, they are not so examination conscious. And I will explain why I talk about exams conscious. Exams conscious is that, you see, I must pass and get to the university by the hook or by the crook. By all means, I need to continue my education to the tertiary. By all means, I have to get to nursing training. By all means, I must go to teacher training. So we are exams conscious. And even sometimes teachers would focus on teaching questions that they think will come in the examination and forget those they think do not appear in the examination. And that is a very disservice to most of the students. You see, when elsewhere, okay, they are not so mindful of continuing the education, nursing or whatever, because they believe that there are other avenues that even after senior high school, you can venture into. Let me share this experience with you. I remember um, when I was in level 200, we were taught a particular course, and that course was taught by a certain Canadian lecturer. I think she was doing some exchange program, and while she was teaching, she was giving us some statistics about uh, the number of students who attend basic school to SHS and then also university. Then we saw the statistics that in Ghana, if it was about 50%, and in Canada, right from basic school to SHS, I think it was around 97, 98 thereabouts. It appears almost everybody enters to school over there. But when it got to university, we saw that our numbers had increased and the percentage we were higher as compared to Canada. And all of us, all the students were surprised. They said, aha. Then we asked. She explained that, over there, most of the people believe that entering into nursing training, entering into university or whatever tertiary institution that you are going, they see that it is your career profession that you're going for. It's just like somebody who is going to learn carpentry. That's how they see it. And so, according to him, the fees are quite exorbitant, quite high as compared to that of Ghana. And in Ghana, you know that it's a do or die affair because everybody want to enter into the university. Everybody want to enter, but according to over there, people don't care because if the person feels like I have something else to do, the person will enter into a business or do something else without necessarily having to go to university or nurses training or whatever. But over here, it's a do or die affair. So, and that is why we don't care cheating in the examination or poor and what have you, because we must get there by all means. But elsewhere, it's not like that. If you come pass and get to the university, fine, you have other things to do. So go do that. If you can't get to the nurses training, things to do, so go do that. So over they will give you scores in terms of your continuous assessment, give you scores that you don't merit. Because they feel that, yes, if you don't merit it, you have other skills that can also be useful elsewhere. So go and do it. So I think that in education, unless we also get there and feel like it is not by all means that you need to go to university, okay, to make it in life. And it's not by hook or crook that you need to go to nurses training before you can make it in life. There are other things that we can do. We are not there yet, but let's pray we get there some time to come. So I think that will be the response that I will give to your question. And I hope that I've been able to address your question. Any other question? Yes. All right. If there are no questions, then let's proceed. Now, let's quickly look at the historical issues with respect to the English language curriculum. The English language curriculum, as we all know, um, dates back in the 16th century, but we, some countries use French and the rest, but as Ghanaians, we are using English language, and we know why, because of our colonial masters. It is a language of our colonial masters, and we have adopted it. And as of now, it has become the official language in Ghana. And I believe that is why we are not even thinking of a national language. Because at the end of the day, there are some countries like Botswana, Tanzania, and the rest. Okay, after independence, they made the attempt to change their colonial masters' language and develop or adopt a national language from one of their local language. They tried, but I think has not been so successful. You know, in Ghana, we haven't even tried. We have not even given it a try at all. Since independence, we have always relied on the language of our colonial masters, which happens to be English. And so that is how the English curriculum came to being. And there were three major reasons, okay, why our English language, right, developed into the Ghanaians' linguistic repertoire. And as of that time, we've not been able to disentangle ourselves from it. And it's even getting stricter and stricter. And it will continue to be stricter. And that is why even in Ghana, if you can't speak English language, people even equate language speaking to the person's intelligence, right? And for me, your ability to communicate in English language does not suggest that you're an intelligent person. I think it's far from that, right? So one of the reasons, okay, that we ascribe is through trade, how we got that encounter was through trade. And English was first introduced to Ghana by the British merchants that were trading in the variety of commodities. And you see, when the British first arrived in the early part of the 16th century, like who arrived before, they trained some of the inhabitants as interpreters. And that is why Wadi, all right, refers to that as the mercantile English. Okay, it was a language that was developed through trade. So one of the reasons for the spread was through trade. They didn't understand our language, and also we also found it very difficult to also speak their language. And so they needed to use middlemen when you speak. And if, you know, it has been there because you realize that even we'll get to religion, and that's why some pastors would even speak English, and then someone will do the interpretation. It happened long, way back at even before independence. So that was one of the reasons that we ascribe to the spread of English language or the development of the English language curriculum. Then one of it was also education, right? One of it was education. Now they developed, when the British arrived, they developed some forts, okay? And then they started the castle schools over there. And one instrumental person, Ghanaian, who helped, especially in the spread of English language in terms of education, was Reverend Denny, was very, 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 very instrumental. And he was a headmaster of one of the castle schools, the Cape Coast. And he even instituted English only. So anytime you see this inscription, speak English always. In schools, he actually instituted it. And he instituted stricter punishment that if you spoke your local language, it was met with strict punishment. And you remember, I believe that we still remember. Of course, I have been a victim. I remember way back at JHS, if you spoke, you paid 50 pesos, or you are given strokes of the cane. And of course, Reverend Denny played critical or instrumental role in the institution of that particular rule or norm. Another way that also helped in the spread or in the establishment of the English language curriculum was also through governance. Also through governance. And in terms of governance, you know, those of you who did studies, you would come to the realization we have what we call the indirect rule, where the whites will be ruling the indigenes or the people through their own people. And you see, to be able to communicate or dialogue with the white, definitely you needed language, English language, without which you can never. And you see, it has been there until today. Because if you really, those who got closer to the white, they were able to get into leadership positions. And so they will give you the instruction, then you go and send it back to the people. Those of you who have read this poem, A Night for in Soweto, it is one of the issues in indirect rule. Okay. They will not come direct, but they will be using the people to come to you. And so lawyers were developed through there. Judges were also developed through there, teachers, and you know that they sent a lot of them, Filipoko and whatever, they sent some people abroad to go and learn, and they also came back to help the local indigenes as well. So that was the way that the white were also using. So the colonizer wanted to rule the colonies through the inhabitants themselves, and that is what referred to as indirect rule. And so those who could not speak English were of no use to the colonizers. So the use of English therefore created an important advantage for the administration. And tell me now, let's all agree. Are you following the argument? As of now, if you cannot speak English, can you occupy any important position in the country,
Not at all.
so
No,
to speak?
please.
No,
No.
Not at
no,
all.
please.
never not.
No,
You
please.
can't.
Even doctor,
It's the
even in your own constituency, if you want to aspire as MP and you cannot speak English, they will use it
You
against
remember
you.
Amase? Hmm?
Mm.
Thank you for
Yes,
bringing
Mr.
that. Amase.
Minister,
Yeah,
the
again,
hairdresser.
yeah, the
Honorable
hairdresser.
Wisdom was Ebuama, that
Yes,
we cannot
Uncle
speak
Uh-huh.
Tia.
English.
So what
Fantastic.
about Ekuyadonko who wanted to become the president?
Oh, okay. And then you see, nobody was taking her seriously until
And
she
yeah,
died.
no.
Yeah.
And may her soul rest in perfect peace. We
Even
all
doctor,
miss her.
as at now, doctor, even as at now, as at now, the MPP still use English language as a measurement of capability or someone who is capable.
Mm.
Because Honorable
Oh, yeah.
Chairman Samuel said that because Bawumia can speak English fluently, he is capable to that of Honorable Kennedy or in Japan, and it is
Are you,
affecting us.
are you sure?
Hey, so let us not go
Yes,
into that. Otherwise,
Listen
some
here.
people
To politics. Yep.
Let's stop.
You're studying. Users.
let's end it here. But the point of emphasis is that the issues that we are seeing here, it emanated from somewhere. It started from somewhere. It started from time of old, during the presence of our colonizers. They actually instituted some of the things that we see here. Okay. And it is now that people are trying to also ensure that we also get well entrenched in terms of our local languages. It's not that people have started talking about it. Otherwise, you and I know pretty well that nobody is interested in the local language. It is rather English language. And that is the relevance or the essence of the English language curriculum. But you know, another most significant aspect that we need to appreciate is that the English language curriculum is so crucial. And we have seen that it has gotten well entrenched in our linguistic repertoire. And education can never be operationalized without language. It can never be possible. Without language, there is no education. Because education is all about communication, interaction, right? And if it is about communication, then the only medium of communication that is quite official is English language. And so the English language curriculum is not on its own. It helps in the development of other subject areas, mathematics, science, even sometimes there is English. So English language cuts across all the curriculum. And we sometimes refer to it as the subject across the curriculum. And that is why it is a core that everybody must be taken through it. And it explains why even at the university, if you don't pass English language, you can't make progress to the next level. You can't. And it's only English. That is the reason. And even sometimes when you want to travel outside the country, if you want to travel outside the country, you need English proficiency. The reason is that teaching and learning will be done solely in a certain language. And so if the country you want to go to is an English-speaking country, you need to understand English language because when they are teaching, they will use English. When they are conducting assessment, they will use English language. And so if you are not well positioned or entrenched in English language, you can't be successful.
Yeah, what's happening? You want to time minister? No, was it? You know, link and I bet you.
Please
Nah, I
mute
shall
yourself.
join.
Madam, please mute your mic.
I've taken -5.
She's
-5.
not having this particular person.
-5.
I think the last time the same thing. She really
see
likes
what you have caused.
Thank you, Sid.
I didn't want to deduct marks because already I don't know the kind of scores we are going to get. You have forced me to take 5 marks, 5 maximum marks from your scores. I told you mute your mics. If you want to talk, I'll give you the opportunity to talk. Or you can put up your hand. Then you are mute, you speak. After that, you mute. You see, there's nothing I can do about it. Anyway, let's move on. So I want to make or emphasize that I remember when I was doing my off-campus teaching practice in Sunyani Senior High School, one question that a student asked me, but then I wasn't all that experienced. So after teaching, this gentleman came to me and asked, said, you see, we are always being bothered with English, yeah, they're English, but we are science students. Why English? You see, at that time, yeah, this is a serious issue. He didn't, and trust me, some students don't even want to attend English classes if you don't even make it interesting and enjoyable. Trust me, a lot of students. But you see, it is up to you, the teacher, to let them appreciate the relevance of it. That even if you are a doctor, given the situation that we find ourselves in, medicine is constructed. Knowledge in medicine is constructed through English language. And so if you are not well versed in English language, how do you understand the terminologies and the issues in medicine? When you go to the School of Medicine, they will not teach you in Cree. It is English. So if you don't read well and appreciate certain issues in the language, how then do you understand the communication and pass your exams? So you see, it is up to you to help them appreciate. And you see, English language also gives you a certain kind of global advantage. Once you travel outside the country, and just as I said, you need what we call English proficiency. And so if you don't do well in English language, nobody want to accept you. Because they wouldn't want you to come and be a burden on them. White, that's what they don't like. They don't like that. And that is why sometimes you are traveling outside, they need you to have a certain amount of money in your account. They wouldn't want a situation where you come there and then you are a burden to them. No. They don't like that. So they scrutinize everything before they allow you to come. And so these are some of the things that we need to explain or help our learners appreciate that is the curriculum we find ourselves. Whether you are in P, you are whatever, you are in science or you are in business, English is the order of the day. You better get yourself entrenched in it and read well in it. So that is it. Then it is the official language, and we all know that as official language, it is medium of instruction in schools. It is language used in the law court. Sometimes, if you don't understand English, when you go to the law court, they will get someone to interpret for you. I think that provision is extremely important. They will do it. But Everything, the constitution, whatever proceedings are captured in English. Okay, media houses a lot in English. That is why it is so. Every government business is done in English. If the president want to address the nation, fellow Ghanaians, it is English. It's the language that can unify all of us, and that is the official language that we have. And so in our case as Ghanaians, English is used an official language because it is used in all institutions such as, and I'm not going to bore you with much explanation because some of these things are self-explanatory. Governance, education, language teachers are supposed to help in the development of linguistic skills, abilities of learners, reading, writing, and whatever. So basically, that is the implication of the use of English language. Then is social and economic value of English language. So all these things are trying to suggest the relevance of the English language curriculum to us. And let us not forget, this course is curriculum studies in English language. And it's important that we appreciate the subject so that we can expand the scope of the subject to people to appreciate why they need to bother ourselves with it. When people argue that, oh, we need to promote our local language, we are not there yet. So now, it is not something that we can cast away so easily. Whether we like it or not, take it or leave it, English language has come to stay, and it is order of the day. And we need to ensure that our learners are able to develop proficiency, competency in it, because it has social essence, has economic essence that you may want to familiarize yourselves with, right? Now, that is all about the English language curriculum. And let me find out from you, or let me know if there is something that you feel I have left out. You can also draw attention to it and we discuss or we talk about it. Or there is something that you did not understand. You can ask your questions and then we talk about it. Right. Any question, contribution before we proceed? Yes,
Sir.
Mercy. Konama.
Yes, sir. Sir,
Johannes,
please.
sir.
Yes, sir, please. Please, when you were hammering on the relevance of English language, you made mention of the fact that it is sometimes referred to as something. I didn't quite get that. I wanted to take notice of it. Thank you.
Is that
it is sometimes referred to?
Or the thing I said about subject across the curriculum?
Yes, please. Subject across the curriculum.
Subject across the curriculum.
All right,
the reason we say it is the subject across the curriculum is that regardless of the subject or the course that you are handling, you can never do away with it. You can't do away with English language. So it is inherently positioned in all subjects. If you are teaching mathematics, you, the teacher, you must have knowledge about English language. The learners must also be well versed in English language to understand some of the issues that you talk about, right? And that's why we say it is subject across the curriculum. Yes, Elizabeth. Lizzie?
Yeah, sir. Please, I wanted to add to what you just said. Even when we are preparing lesson plans for Ghanaian, we do write them in English.
Oh, good.
That Ghanaian. Thank you.
Fantastic. Even do you know why? Do you know why that is done?
Yes.
No, please.
Yes.
Tell us. Somebody say yes. Tell us.
Yes, I raised this concern at the staff meeting before when SIA visited the school. So the SIA said, yes, you did Ghanaian language. You have the right, either French or Ghanaian language. You have to write the lesson notes in English. And we said, why? The person cannot write English. That is why
Mm-hmm.
he went and studied the Ghanaian language. So he had a command over the Ghanaian language. He said when officers come, they don't they don't understand the Ghanaian language. So they want to see the English language written in the lesson plan. Especially with the new curriculum, when you are drafting the essential questions, they said the essential question, everything should be in the English language, but not Ghanaian language. So they said because visitors will be coming to supervise your work, they need to understand the content and what the method you are going to teach. That is why they want everything to be in the English language.
Yeah,
This
I
one.
think this is a very powerful explanation, and I think this is I actually didn't have this one in mind, but I believe that it's very useful and relevant to our discussion, and it makes a lot of sense in to write in English language. But someone may also argue that if I'm teaching Ghanaian language and you want somebody, an officer to come and observe or go through whatever, I think you need to also bring someone who is in the area so that the person will be able to read the language, just as somebody who is teaching French. You wouldn't send somebody who cannot speak or read in French to go and supervise somebody who is teaching French. Otherwise, you'll not understand anything because the person will be speaking and should be writing in English. But it makes a lot of sense. It's something that we can consider going forward. Right. But there is also another twist to it. There is also another issue that we can also explain. And the reason is that, you see, sometimes we write in, even though it is Ghanaian language or whatever it is, but we write in English. The reason is that in terms of Ghanaian language, we have not been able to develop so much our orthographies. We have not. We have not. The orthographies are not well developed. And I was listening to a particular man on radio. He pointed out that some other countries like Germany, Spain, and the rest, just like Spanish, German, and what have you, every year they try to develop their orthographies. What I mean is that certain words in Ghanaian language and then English, there are so many words in English that we can't find in Ghanaian language. So many words. What sometimes we do is just a description of the word. You don't. Even French, people will be saying a sukochiadaka. It's just a mere description of it. You understand? And even how many people can even know that when it is French, you say a sukochiadaka. But we need to spend time, money. And you see, that is why that NALAB issue, that's why it failed. Because we are not developing our orthographies, the words I mean. We are not developing them. So you have a lot of words in English language that cannot be found in or in the Ghanaian language. So sometimes writing excessively to talk about certain issues in education, you are not likely to find the Ghanaian version of such expressions or words. It happens most of the time. Even at the university level, when they are writing, even their theses, they are writing certain assignment or whatever, they still write it in English language. But I believe that they can still try and develop the orthographies, and I think that problem can be solved. And people feel, because it becomes so convenient to write it in English than to write it in P. Oh yes, if you ask them, those who are in Ghanaian language, they will tell you to some extent. It becomes so comfortable. Not that they can't write in P, they can do it, but it becomes so comfortable writing in English than in writing in Ghanaian language. Right. Okay, Esther, your hand is up. Can we listen to you one more time and then we make
Yes,
progress?
sir, please, I have an issue. Now, when we talk about English, now in Ghana, English is an official language that we use for our various instruction and others in government, in schools, and all that. I'm a
That's
language
correct.
teacher that I teach in a very remote area. When you speak the English, they don't really understand the English, though we are trying our best to make them understand. It has also been said that when teaching, we should use the L1 in addition to the English so that the child will understand. Now, when you mix the two as an English class, in the English class, you don't have to use the local language too much in the English class. Now, when you speak the English, the understanding of the children is a bit low, even with their concentration and participation is very low. So, say, I want to know, how do I go about that? And I'm not sure I can use the local language to teach throughout my English lesson. So how do I
I
help
think
these children
it's a
to
genuine concern, and a country like Ghana, you're likely to encounter such a situation. But it all depends on the level that you're teaching, because the language policy says that right from kindergarten to class 3, you use the local language as a medium of instruction, where English language will be taught as a subject. Then from class 4 thereafter, English language becomes the medium of instruction. And so English language is also taught as a subject. Now, if you are teaching and you see it's a genuine problem and it's an issue, because sometimes you may find people teaching even at the senior high school in a certain jurisdiction in Ghana, and still most of the students would not be able to even understand English. It happens most of the time. And if even they do, speaking in the language becomes quite problematic. And I've been at the senior high school before, and I remember I was teaching somewhere, I wouldn't want to mention any place, but the student would tell you that, of course, when there is a class discussion, wherever, a student could tell you, say, can I speak P? We see, if you allow that person to speak P, the person will flow, very fluent. But when the person switches to English language, then it becomes a problem. So yes, it's genuine. But what you can do is that we call something translanguaging, where you do that for a purpose, and it is pedagogically feasible. Because at the end of the day, the sole aim of teaching is to bring about understanding of the learners. And so translanguaging will permit you, given the level that you are teaching, to at least speak the language and use the local dialect or local language to help them understand what we are saying. Because you see, if indeed genuinely they cannot understand the language, English language you are speaking, there is no need for you to continue to teach when in fact they do not understand. You are wasting their time and you are wasting your time as well. So it is important that you try as much as possible to introduce the local dialect to help them appreciate. But one thing you can also do is that sometimes, I don't know, but let me say it anyways. Sometimes teachers would want to show off a bit by the use of certain big words in quote, or unfamiliar words, so to speak, and then unfamiliar expressions, given the level that they are teaching. You see, when you do that, they will not understand. But when you identify that they find it difficult to understand the language, then please come down to their level in terms of the speaking of the language. This is one example. If you want to use, and that is why you, the teacher, you have to read and know. That is why we have synonyms, antonyms, and the rest. Because if you don't read, you wouldn't be able to know. This is somebody who is very good or adept in English language, knows the kind of expressions and words to use with respect to the level that he or she is dealing with. So that's the first thing you have to do. Tone down your language to the level that you are teaching, and even the level to the caliber of student you are teaching. So, for instance, if at that level you want to use flabbergasted, then why don't you use surprise? Okay, instead of using flabbergasted, just an example that I want to show so that they will be able to understand. If that doesn't work, then you use translanguaging. Speak English, all right, but then use the local dialect to guide them to understand. Then they will know, okay, so what you said, this is the implication or this is the meaning. Then you put them side by side, and then you should be able to make headway. So basically, these are the issues that you can follow. One is beating down your language to the level, to the caliber of student you are teaching. Two, introducing translanguaging to help with the use of the local language to complement the English language to help them understand. Because I don't know the kind of argument any other person will make. If you're teaching them, you're speaking English language and the learners do not understand, and you still want to go ahead and speak English language, you are wasting your time and wasting the time of the learner as well. So it is important you put them side by side. And that concept is what referred to as translanguage. Anyway, thank you so much for your issue. And I believe that we have been able to address your issue. Now, can I listen to Apajan Joel? Joel.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to talk. In fact, the name is Apanda Joel Debila.
Sorry?
The name is Apanda Joel Debila.
Okay, Apanda. Sorry. All right.
Yes, please. Please, I want to. Is my is an addendum to what you have just said.
Okay.
We have been facing similar situations, and then most of them are not. This is what I do to help my learners understand me better. Because we have some students who understand other languages. Say there are some students who understand Chi or any other local language that you, the teacher, understand. So cases where you find it difficult to make it understand, you find out those students and then you explain to them, and they will in turn also explain to their colleagues. Then the other way is that you also demonstrate what they were trying to say. For example, today I mentioned the word catapult in a class. Then almost all the students were confused about what a catapult is. Then when I do my hand and pull like I want to do somebody, then they all shouted, whoa, whoa, master, it's tire, it's tire. You understand? So at least there are, these are some 30 ways that you can also use to help them understand. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you too. Very, very useful. Yes. And that's just what Joel has just said. These are other things that you can also do to help them understand whatever you are saying. Very, very important. Thank you very much, Joel. We appreciate your submission. Can we now also listen to Josephine?
Yes.
Josephine.
Good evening, sir. Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
As my brother said, Joel, I'm facing the same problem here. I am on Nzama land and I can't speak the Nzama language. So in class, I use the English as a medium of communication. I try to explain it in fancy, but still. So I asked one of the students to explain it in Nzama for them to understand before I continue. So I think my sister can do the same in her class.
Very well. Yeah, that's true. You can adopt that. Just as Joe said, and then Josephine has also added to it. You can do it because I don't know if the focus is for them to understand. So if they understand, you are good to go. And if you want to continue to speak in English and at the end of the day they don't understand, you have not achieved anything. I think there's Techno 15. Your hand has been up for quite a long time. I think you can go ahead and make your submission.
Hello, Doc.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted
Yes,
to
please go ahead.
add up to what you said, that In fact,
Go
we
ahead,
should
please.
come to the level of the students or the children that we are teaching. If you come to the level of them, it helps a lot. For instance, as my brother said, today, for instance, I was teaching and then I just mentioned sigh, a sigh of relief. Then the sigh, it seems is their first time of hearing that. So I demonstrated to them, and then they said, say, oh. So it means that
That's
when
the
we
aha
demonstrate
theory.
theory. So it means that when we demonstrate whatever word that they find it difficult to understand, in fact, it helps them to get the meaning of it and then they understand it better. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your submission a lot. Maxwell, and then we come to Bernard as well. And
Doc,
then we proceed. Yes, Maxwell.
please, at what level and to what extent should we use the trans language?
Oh, yes. Good question. But it is important to also add that it depends on the level, just as I said. If it is from class 4 upward, the English language must be more. Okay. So the translanguaging or the local language comes in when you have explored, I think, what's the name? One person suggested that we can use some non-verbal cues to help them. And I think Maxwell also just added pretty soon that we can do actions and what have you to help them know what is it that they are talking about. And he even used a sigh of relief, and they were able to get it. So when you have explored all these strategies, and yet they still find it difficult to appreciate what is it that you are saying, then of course you go down to their level by introducing translanguaging, by using their local dialect to assist them. Let me tell you this. Translanguaging is used for pedagogical purposes, and it is only used when you want to enhance learners' understanding of what it is that you're talking about or the concept you're discussing. That's translanguaging. So you use it when you have tried all strategies and yet they seem not to appreciate the concept. Then you adopt translanguaging to enhance the understanding of the concept. So that is when you can use translanguaging.
So, Doc,
I hope your question is answered.
Yeah. What I want to add is that normally I use it as my last resort.
Okay.
And as and when the situation calls for. Because one of the policy guiding the use of English language is when you are teaching English language, the same language should be used.
That is metalingual language, metalinguistic function.
For me, the language is my last resort. Or I really do that when the situation calls for it, then I use it. And if you don't do that, you encourage the use. Look, not help the children to be very articulate.
Absolutely. And in addition to what Maxwell just said, you see, forget about the kind of structures they use, the kind of language they speak. You forget about that. Concentrate on the meaning. What is it that they want to say? Have you gotten the meaning? Focus on that. Encourage them to speak, whether good or bad, they should continue to speak. Okay. Sometimes once they speak, it may be so awkward that the structures they are using, you seem not to have, or they seem not to use any right structures or whatever it is. You see, don't be perturbed and don't stop them. give them the opportunity to continue to speak, just as Maxwell said. You let them interact in the language. And as they do, don't forget we have the interactionist approach. If it is English curriculum we are dealing with, then they need to constantly be using the language in and outside the classroom so that they can develop proficiency in the language. So yes, it should be your last resort. Otherwise, if you continue to do that, then if you are not careful, you will be de-emphasizing the ability to speak the language and then be promoting the local language. I'm not saying it's not good to get them speak their own local language, but the situation that we find ourselves regarding the discussion that we've had so far with respect to the English language curriculum, and I know that is not something that we can do away with in the curriculum that we have in Ghana, because it is the official language. So try to get them to be able to use the language, regardless of the kind of structures they are using. Don't be perturbed and continue to correct them when they speak. I think that is what you have to do. Thank you very much for the question. Yes, Bernard.
Thank you, Doctor. I believe my submission has already been made by the earlier speaker, so we can continue.
Thank you very much, Bernard. Thank you so much for saving
welcome,
us some time. Yes, Dan, your hand is up. Can we also listen to you? Dan?
Hello,
Dan
hello,
cannot
sir.
hear us. Okay.
Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
Dan.
sir. Just something
Yes.
little. One thing is that when it comes to like the teaching of the language, we need to know that even if you translate it, let's take it that you keep translating it every now and then, it will be difficult for them to ever learn the language. So something that will just become that cheap, but sometimes with the translation they don't find it that easy. So I think using relics like actions and tangible things, demonstrating, sometimes using drawings and those things, it helps a lot, like some of them have already said. So we should be careful not to use the local language too much when we are teaching English.
Thank you very much, Dan. I think the emphasis he is making is too much. Not too much, because when you do it, you are overemphasizing the local language over the English. But in fact, they must continue to use the English language. Dan, we are grateful so much for your submission. So helpful. Ali Muhammad. And then I'll come to you, Akofa Comfort.
This is not
We used to read a lot of stories. So.
Yes, and thank you very much for your submission.
All right,
and
Ali.
Regarding the question our sister asked earlier, I think one of the ways that could be helpful is integrating ICT in your language teaching, or yes, integrating ICT. Integrating ICT. Hello?
Ali, yes, please go ahead. I think we can hear you now.
Okay. Okay. Integrating ICT in your lessons. Let me see. We have these small projectors that are around, that those that have batteries. You don't need to plug them. Those in the rural areas, it is very helpful if you get one. It will aid you very. It will aid in teaching your lessons, and this Bluetooth MP3. It aids a lot. Yes, it is a lot. Sometimes students, if you show students the actions being done, maybe in a video form, a picture form, it is so easy for students to grasp than explaining throughout talking. I think I don't know if Doc is getting my point.
Yeah, Ali, I think you're talking about the use of projectors, right?
Yes, integrating ICT. Yes, in your
Integrating
lessons.
ICT.
That's
Yeah, where
yes.
some of the issues you talk about could be demonstrated by the use of the either by the use of video or pictures on the laptop where you project. I think that's the point you are seeking to make, isn't it?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, it's really helpful because you see, language, if we adopt ICT or integrate ICT, it helps a lot. It helps a lot because there are a number of things that we can do with. Even sometimes some scholars have argued it is important to allow your learners to also listen to the native speakers. Yeah, it is very important. I have a friend who is teaching in I think Saudi Arabia or somewhere, and he tells me that over there, those who are from the L2 speaking countries, there is a certain kind of, and English speaking countries, there's also a certain amount of money they pay them. What this means is that they really want the learners to have a feel of the native speakers as compared to those who speak English as their second language or L2. So sometimes over here, it's also important that from time to time, you also allow the student to also listen to the native speaker speak. All right, it is important. And that's why the use of ICT is important in the teaching of language, just like English. So thank you very much, Ali. Your point is very, very clear and very useful. And I believe that it will also help us going forward. Thank you very much. Akopa Comfort, can we listen to you and then we progress?
Okay.
We continue from there. Yes.
Thank you, Doc. Concerning
Right.
what the points the earlier speakers made, I just wanted to add some. I'm also teaching a rural area where my learners find it very difficult to like speak express themselves in English. So it got to a point I had to my English class became practically like a fancy class. So it got to a point when they want to answer a question, they'll be like, Madam, I want to speak fancy. I was like, okay, go ahead, speak the fancy. So when they are done with the fancy, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, fine. You know that medium AI Igbeni. So now translate everything you said in fancy to English. Try and let's correct. So I realized that process right now it is helping. So some of them they don't want to do long talk. On person of fancy, then he will finish and still translate into English. So madam, I want to try English. When I make mistake, correct me. And I think it is helping my class a lot.
All right. Akofa, your submission has even reminded me. You see, and I think one of the speakers articulated that the use of groupings or collaboration. You see, the point you have just reached, we are all here to share ideas. I think that is the most important thing in teaching.
Yes, yes.
Now, once you put them in groups, what you do is that, and it is important you always focus on such groupings. Then that's as you said, the person wants to make a point in class and doesn't really know how to make that point using English language. In a group, that person can share, okay, the idea with the group members, and maybe the group would come together, assist the person to say the thing he or she want to say in English language. And then afterwards, something think, pair, share. So once they all come together, think about it, okay, then that person gets up and then share his or her position with the entire class. So when you do that in that kind of collaboration, I believe strongly that it will help the learners to be able to, especially those who are weak in the language, to also develop their speaking skills in it. So Akofa, it's extremely important. It's something that we can encourage, because I don't know if the person shares the idea with the group and then the group come together, it helps that person to say it in English language. And you need to emphasize that, because if the person wants to say it, that same person must be given the opportunity to say it. But the group will help that person to say it in English language. And I believe that will be able to develop their skills. Thank you very, 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 very much. And we can continue from here. Thank you all for your submission. Now let's look at culture. You see, we cannot teach English language by being oblivious of cultural practices. That cannot happen. Because you see, culture is inherently positioned and entrenched in language. Because you and I know that language is part of culture. So how can you teach or develop the English language curriculum devoid of cultural norms and practices? That cannot happen. No, it is important for us to avert our minds to issues of culture. And over here, culture is the integrated pattern of human social behavior that encompasses communication. And you know that some forms of communications are guided or controlled by cultural norms and practices. Now, I think I was suggesting to somebody somewhere that even when we are talking, in some countries, when we are talking and you look elsewhere,
relationship with people from different ethnic groups. True. It is good. So that.
Hello. I think he's
Please, the
teaching
one
the.
talking in the background should mute
Yeah, please
himself.
mute your
Please.
microphone, okay? Yeah. He's actually doing a good thing. He's teaching the child the homework. Oh, that's so lovely. Anyway, let's move on with our culture. We are also talking our culture. You know, so the point I'm emphasizing is that elsewhere, and you see, understand also that whenever we talk about language, language is not only about verbal communication or written communication. The nonverbal cues and everything can also be associated with language. And then we also have pragmatic effect of language, which is culturally relevant. So if in Ghana, we know, you and I know for a fact that if you are speaking to an elderly person, they will tell you that you don't have to look into the eyes of that person when you are talking to that particular person. You need to shy away a bit. You see, but elsewhere, if you are talking to someone and you don't give the person that kind of eye contact, the person will feel like whatever information you are giving is a lie. So you see, these things are there that in the curriculum, it may not be something that, and listen, it is not everything that we deliver in the classroom that will be written in the curriculum. It may not necessarily be written, but that is why you are being taken through some of these courses, so that when you are teaching English language, you would have that information to assist the learners. And that is why we wouldn't want a Greek teacher, okay, or a Greek student to go and teach English language. That's the reason. Because not everything will be captured in the curriculum for you to go and read. Otherwise, if everything will be written verbatim in the curriculum, then somebody who went to school to learn mathematics can also go to the classroom and teach English language. All right. And that's why you're doing curriculum studies in English. You're doing methods of teaching in English. So some of these issues will be discussed. So when you also go back and you are teaching, you would avert your mind to addressing some of these cultural issues in your class. Okay. So the issues of communication, thoughts, processes, languages, practices, beliefs, values, customs, courtesies, rituals, manners of interacting, roles, relationships, unexpected behavior of racial, ethnic, and religious or social groups. All these things border on culture. And when we are teaching, you see, I believe strongly that it may not necessarily be only English language, but you see, this is language, so to speak. And once it is language, you see, when you look at the cultural setting that you find yourself, it is not everything that you must say. Okay? I know you all know Ivor Greenstreet. You know him, right?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Good.
Yes,
There
sir.
was
So
a
we know
time
him.
that, good. There was a time that he made a certain kind of utterance. One really remember and said that, you know that he's physically challenged in a way, right? So the person said that he needs to be raised to see what NPP has done. Okay, you see, it is a certain kind of relationships and expected behavior of racial or ethnic or religious social groups. You see, once you say that, it is quite derogatory in a certain way. Quite derogatory in a certain way. So, given the setting you find yourself, it is not every form of communication. Then people will interpret your expression or your word to mean that you are mocking his nature. That's what people think. And that is why I said earlier that understanding of a message doesn't lie with the speaker, but with the listener. People will interpret it. Right? So this is what I meant. They are not in your mind to determine that. That is why when you are communicating or you are speaking, you need to be mindful of your environment and your choice of words. All these things we need to help our learners to appreciate. And remember, in terms of the philosophy that we looked at contextualism. If you remember, there's a link, the second relationship here. Because contextualism will tell you that language is spoken by taking into consideration your context of situation. A culture and language cannot be learned in a few lessons about celebrations, folk songs, or customs, or costumes of area in which a language is spoken. Culture is thus a much broader concept that is inherently tied to many of the linguistic concepts taught in second language class, which become important for some reason. So the point here is that, you see, you can never teach culture in just a lesson. You cannot. And you see, as we continue to speak, interact, and we have also learned assessment. As you interact with the learners, you observe them, you pay attention to them when you're interacting with them, and then we see the lapses in terms of their adherence to the cultural practice or cultural norms with respect to language. It is very, very important. Because you see, English language is not our language. It is language by our colonial masters. We have our local languages. But the mere fact that the language is not ours doesn't mean that in speaking the language, we will not be particular about our cultural norms and practices. We still must pay keen interest in our cultural norms and practices. Because some of the things that are done in the Western world cannot be done in our part of the world. For example, when you go elsewhere, they use some of these motherfucker, whatever. When we come here, and you want to use motherfucker and what have you here, we would have a different association with it. I remember when we were learning semantics, I remember very well that the professor said something that that there is even meaning is culturally sensitive. Yes, meaning is culturally sensitive. And the position was that if our meaning that we attach to somebody who is slim, because in Ghana, if you tell somebody you are slim, the person will feel a certain kind of way. But then, according to if you go outside the country, okay, and refer to somebody as fat, there's also a certain kind of meaning that we associate with it. So you see, in terms of meaning, there is also the issues about culture, where somebody who is slim elsewhere would take it in a certain way, and somebody who is fat over there will also take it in a certain way. So that is also issues in terms of meaning. You and then sometimes too we build, it is, don't forget, it is the issue of also social groups. We can also build meaning based on the culture. The word brutal has gained a certain kind of meaning in our context, right? Which one can say, oh yeah, they're brutal. Brutal has a certain kind of denotative meaning. But sometimes when you use it, the kind of meaning that we associate with it may not necessarily be the denotative meaning that we all know. All right, that is about issues about social, and it is contextually relevant how we develop meaning with respect to our settings and our social groups. And we can identify a number of words that we also associate a certain kind of meaning with. Right. Well, what are some of the importance of with respect to culture in second language teaching? One, appreciate the appropriate ways to address people. Yeah. Yeah. Because you see, here in Ghana, the way that you address people and somebody, let me even give this one to you. You see, you need to understand, and in Ghana, you know that we make noise about titles. We make noise. I'm a doctor, I'm a professor, I am this. So if you don't refer to the person by the person's qualification, you are in trouble. And I've heard people say that your mom didn't call you when you were giving birth to your mom didn't call you Dr. So and so. Your mom gave you a name. That's your name. But in Ghana, we fancy that. It is only in Ghana that somebody will call a person's first name and add Mr. or whatever to it. But you see, elsewhere, if you do that, they will laugh at you. A person is called Francis, then you want to say Mr. Francis. It's because of our culture, how we value certain titles. But that's why they don't. Because I remember I met this woman who's from America. She came to actually teach. She was called Dr. Amimasco. And for us, you know our culture, the way we address, and we always emphasizing doctor, doctor. This was like, oh hell, what? It's called, we should call her by name. Amy, simple. Because her student over there, they call her simply Amy. They say, hey, in Ghana, Amy. You get kill. You give you kill for calling him or her like just the first name. But you see, that's where that is the wrong. If you don't appreciate, they say when you roam, you do what the Romans do. So we are in Ghana. And so we contextualize it in terms of the use of address system. We need to ensure the appropriate titles are given to them. I remember, I don't know, but I'm told that there was a situation where there was a certain doctor after graduation, when he became a doctor, He wanted the wife to call him a doctor, regardless of the kind of activity they were doing. I know, a lot of activities that sometimes once we are being recorded, I'm restrained to say a lot of things or certain things. Okay. But and then I'm told that it led to divorce because the wife was insistent on not calling him by the title doctor and was telling a divorce. This may not necessarily happen in other settings or in other jurisdictions. So you see, cultural practices will help us to address people, that give them the correct address they want. Then also, it also helps us to express gratitude. The way we express gratitude, you see, it's a certain kind of communication. I remember there was this professor, according to him, he schooled outside the country. And then according to him, the professor did something to him. So he wanted to show appreciation. And then I think he put something, money in an envelope and said, say, hey, help more, don't put it. Try it. Just get me a flower, see, flower. Here in Ghana, you're going to express your gratitude or appreciation to someone, and you're going with a flower? My dear, you will send your flower back to where you're coming from. You see, so we have different ways of expressing ourselves in terms of culture, and learners must be integrated into that culture because that's where we come from. That's where we come from. We have a certain local dialect. I don't know, those of you who are Akan, I'll say it in Akan, and I'll try and provide a transliteration, so to speak, if you want. That yenko wahina nimun sapai or yenko pahina nimun sapai. You don't go to the king with an empty hand. That is a way, you see, that's how we are being trained. But you see, when we go elsewhere, let learners appreciate because we have globalization. Don't forget cross-cutting issues that we learned. So that once they get to appreciate some of these things, and then when they get to a certain area, they will begin to learn because they have learned that some of these practices may vary. Well, see, that professor who was teaching us and told us that he was sending an envelope or whatever didn't know the practice of it. If he had known, okay, he wouldn't probably, or he might have asked or taken the pain to find out what he should have done. It is important that we help them to know so that they spread. Then also to make requests. In Ghana, the way we make requests, it's like the thing is even for us. And even sometimes, because of our respect, the way we also show respect, if it is about respect we are showing, we overdo it. So in language, you see people say, could you please give me your pen? That is an overstatement, right? Could you please give me your pen? Because when you learn language, you would come to the realization that food is used as attitudinal, okay? And when you use could as an attitude past, when in fact you're speaking in the present, it is used to show politeness or polite. So anytime you use could, it means, oh, could you help me? You are being polite, being respectful. But Ghana, we overdo it. Then we add a please. Or if you don't use the attitudinal past and then you use the can and you say please or can you please help me or whatever. But you see in Ghana, we overdo it, right? So it is something that we need to help our learners appreciate how we can make requests and the rest. Okay. Then agree to disagree with someone. You know, our radio discussion, television discussion, I won't take you long. The person is speaking, and then, you see, it appears to be a norm. For this one, I may not necessarily say that it is something that we need to encourage. It is something we need to discourage. We find it quite difficult to agree to disagree. You may agree with me, but your choice of words must be seasoned with salt. The mere fact that you don't agree with me doesn't necessarily mean I am wrong. Because probably where I'm standing is different from where you are standing. I have seen this, I don't know, they write 6. Okay, they turn it like that. Maybe when you are standing left and somebody is standing right, they write it, the 6 to face the one facing standing left, and then the one standing right. And you see that the one standing left may see the 6 as 9, and the one standing right may see it as 6. So the position, I guess that you have seen that illustration before, right? Have you seen that before?
Yes,
Good.
yes.
So the position that you stand will tell you how you see things. And that is why we also need to help. Because in our context, it appears that is that is the kind of culture for me, it is not helpful. And you know our body politics, what happens in Ghana. Once we are not in the same party, we are enemies, and we must fight at all costs. It happens in Ghana. But in the Western world, it doesn't happen that way. So it is important we appreciate and tell the appropriate behaviors and intonation patterns in their own speech community. And this is very, very important that just as I said, when we were talking about assessment, you see, these things are culturally sensitive. In Ghana, sometimes when you are confident, people misconstrue that to mean you are arrogant. And so we find it difficult to distinguish between confidence in terms of speaking or speech and then arrogance. When you are fluent, you are articulate, when you're communicating with someone, people feel like you're arrogant. But you see, we need to also let students appreciate that. You see, let me share experience with you. I have a friend, I remember when we were in SHS, he was so articulate in English. Even the teacher who was teaching us wasn't that articulate. So I still remember, and so funny. So I think that teacher was a math teacher, you know. Then an issue actually happened with the class and then the teacher of English language. Then that friend of mine did something that the teacher of English language found unwarranted. And so the math teacher decided to come in. At least he was trying to fight for his colleague teacher. And so the math teacher was having a certain kind of interaction with the student, that friend of mine. And okay, the teacher made a point and the student started expressing himself or explaining the issue or the situation. But by the time he said Jack, we did a sume three. He said, "What?" But the way the guy was flowing, the teacher was stunned. And so all he could do was to slap him. And it was so funny, you know. So you see, in our part of the world, we always want to see people timid when you're approaching an elderly person. And for me, that is wrong. And again, it is crucial for us to admit that when we are talking to an elderly person, you tone down. That's very, very important. It is our culture. Elsewhere, it doesn't happen that way. They don't care, they don't mind. But in that part of the world, when we are talking to an elderly person, it is expected that you tone down. And that is why sometimes, you see, we are so timid and so shy when we are approaching people that are of a high status or people who are elderly in the society. Sometimes we find it difficult to express ourselves. And so if you are not careful, and most of the time it happens right from the home, it happens most of the time, and even in school. And there is that power dynamics in terms of communication in that part of the world. Elsewhere, that kind of inequality, it's not that profound, but in our part of the world, that inequality is so profound in terms of language. When the elderly person is so loud, it's okay. But when you, the younger, you are loud, it is taken to mean that you are very disrespectful. And it is part of our culture. We need to train our students to not to be timid, not to be shy speaking, but we need to also let them know that they should control the intonation when they are talking to an elderly person or in that respect, so that they are not taken as disrespectful people and whatever. So we need to balance that shift. We wouldn't want to make them timid and shy, and we wouldn't also want to make them disrespectful. I think that I've taken about 4 minutes of your time. I'm so sorry about that. And when we meet, God willing, on Thursday, we'll continue from integrating cultural norms in the linguistic forms of the target language, a way of integrating cultural norms into the things that we do in the classroom. Would address that. I'm so grateful to you. I'm sorry that I couldn't give you the opportunity to ask questions for this particular aspect, but we are not done yet. You have the opportunity next week. If there are questions that you want to ask next week, you have the opportunity to ask any question. And if there are comments or suggestions that you want to make next Thursday, you can do that. But let's end our discussion here. I'm so grateful to all of you, especially those of you who shared your experiences and your knowledge with us. We'll continue to learn from one another and grow in knowledge. Thank you very much, and I wish you well. Until we meet Thursday, goodbye to all of us. Enjoy your
Thank
evening.
you too, Doc. God bless you.
Very much, Doc. We are very grateful
We
for the way you handle your.
are
Let me
grateful.
say
God
thank you
God
so
bless
much.
you.
Please,
Good
those who
night.
are in
Thank
person,
you
can
so
you
much.
see for some few comments? Hello.
Thank you.
Those who are
You are too
leaving, please,
much.
can you say for some few comments? Hello.
That,
We are
Hello.
listening.
Yeah,
Speak out, we are
my
listening.
worry is,
hello.
yeah, my worry is